Hey guys, welcome to the show. Subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, Instagram, Twitter, also our YouTube channel at Reza Riffs. It's going to be a great episode. We are actually sponsored on this one by comedian Steve JB. Steve is a brilliant writer and a brilliant comedian, and he's a huge fan of this guest, so he's sponsoring this episode. So we thank you, Steve JB. If you guys want to check him out, follow him on social media, on the Facebook at Steve JB. He posts his hilarious jokes, and they always make me laugh. Couple things, my stand-up special is still on Mad Records on iTunes. Purchase it. Christmas is around the corner, so I could use that. Also, I'm on Cameo. You could book me on Cameo at www.cameo.com/Keith Reza. The only show I have coming up is December 18th at the Rec Room with Ida Rodriguez. You can buy tickets today at www.recroomhb.com. And hopefully next year things will get back to rolling how it is. I hope so, at least. Alan will not be here tonight. It seems like every episode this season he's MIA. I apologize. He's still on the show. He's still rocking and rolling. He's just getting old, I guess, is a nice way to put it. But he will be back, and when he does, we'll welcome him with open arms. Today, my guest is someone who a lot of people know, but don't know. If you know who the unknown comic is, you know the comic genius behind it. He was on Sonny and Cher. He's done movies like Night Patrol. And he's been on the David Letterman show and Jay Leno. Most known for the unknown comic is the great Murray Langston. So we'll be zooming in with Murray, asking him a couple questions about the unknown comic and about his journey. So subscribe, rate, and review if you like the show, and tell a friend. Enjoy.
You're listening to Reza Riffs with Keith Reza and Alan Lee, right here on LA Talk Radio.
All right, we're ready. So Murray, thank you so much for doing this. I'm sorry the Zoom couldn't work out, man.
Hi, I'm not here right now, but if you leave your name and number and sound the tone, I'll get back to you. Here comes the tone now.
Beep. It's Keith Reza. Yeah.
Keith, how do you spell that? K-E-I-E-I-O?
K is for kinky, E is for exotic,
K-E.
I is for incredible, T is for terrific, and H is for happy to talk to you today.
Oh, wait, K-E-I-T-A. What a coincidence. I just had some alphabet soup, and 5 minutes later I got sick and your name came up. Isn't that weird? Isn't it friggin' weird?
Maybe it's a coincidence because I've been hounding you for a few weeks to do this.
Well, I love when you dominate. Who knows? I don't know. I've really, don't do this very often because I don't like people.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so it's hard to, in fact, you got a bad reputation, Keith. Are you still doing porn?
I've never done porn.
Oh, so that wasn't you.
No, maybe.
You did that King Kong plays ping pong when it was ding dong in Hong Kong, didn't you? You didn't start that?
I mean, I wrote the script. I didn't star in it.
Wow, there you go. Okay, well, wait a minute. You're supposed to be asking me questions. This is an interview, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you remember who I am? Who am I?
You're Murray Langston, the unknown comic.
Hold on. Let me check my underwear.
Okay.
No, it's Fruit of the Loom. So you have no clue. I don't wear underwear. How the hell did I get off there?
Oh.
Jeez, that's ridiculous.
How,
But I do. I am wearing my magnified underwear, so go figure.
so how is your Vegas show that you did a couple days ago?
Was that me?
Yeah.
No. I sent somebody else to do that. I just go over anybody's head to have to do a show. No, that was actually fun. It was, I have done it a few years, so it was fun to get up there and get all that shit out. And it was interesting. I was hoping for a standing ovation, but I got 2 walking ovations right in the middle of my act. So I'll take whatever I can get.
Ah, nice. And was that your first time performing in a couple years, or?
Oh yeah, several years, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the last time I performed was on a cruise ship 4 years ago.
Oh.
So just fun to get up and try some different stuff. Make a fool of myself, and they actually gave me a paycheck too. So what the heck? And I got a little vacation in Vegas.
Yeah.
So,
I did a cruise ship once, and I got sick of my jokes.
you got sick of your jokes on the cruise ship.
Yeah.
I get it.
Right?
Yes, I understand that. Well, I got decent and lockjaw at the same time. That was not pleasant.
Yeah. Now, Murray, I have a question. When you use the paper bag, do you still have the original one that you use, or did you use that?
That's actually an interesting question. The original one I used on the first Gong Show, I probably kept for about a year or two and I did use it thinking it would be bad luck if I changed it, but it finally just disintegrated into nothing. And and then I started using a plastic bag, but then I kept blacking out after the first joke. So then I tried using a vacuum cleaner bag, but that sucked. So I could go on and on, but you'll only.
Well, you would think the plastic bag wouldn't work because eventually people could see your face, right?
Yeah. Well, it did. That's exactly what happened. I looked like the unknown condom. Anyway, that's a whole other story. So yeah. So what other questions do you have for me?
Oh, I wanted to ask you because they did a
questions. All right. What's the capital of Ohio?
Oh, Cleveland, right?
I have no clue. All right.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's Cleveland. I could be wrong.
I think it's Columbus, but I could be wrong too. It's irrelevant. Okay, your question. Okay.
So I asked the question. You asked the question. All right, cool.
Okay.
So I wanted to ask you, because on Cher and Sonny, they did a documentary. And you said that Sonny, you were probably one of the only people that said Sonny wasn't really a nice person. What, did you not get along with Sonny?
No, he was sort of a dick on the show. And actually, Terry Garr, you remember Terry Garr, right?
Yeah.
Well, she was also on the show with me, and she thought the same. Well, actually, all of us thought he was a dick. He was a dick on the show. He would refer to us as atmosphere. He has exactly what Billy Crystal has, and I've worked and been around Crystal too, and they both have the same thing. If you're not at their level or above, they really don't want to be interested. They're really not interested in talking to you or hanging with you or going out with you.
Yeah.
And that was Crystal and that was Sonny, So, you just got that sense around them. He just wasn't a super nice guy. And so...
I kind of
died. I remember they called. A few people called me, and the first time I think I said, "Oh yeah, he was a great guy," and I lied. I felt stupid. I said, "Why am I lying?" So the truth is, he wasn't that nice of a guy to us guys on the show, to the regulars that were on the show.
Yeah. And
none of us really cared for him. In fact, Cher invited us to a birthday party at her house on his birthday, and we all got together. We said, should we get him something? We said, hell no. We didn't like him, so we went to the party, and all the agents were there, and the producers and the executives. Everybody got a presents, and he at the end of him opening up his present, he said, "What happened? Didn't the guys get me a present, the regulars?" And one of the guys, Ted Ziegler, he said, "Well, you didn't get me shit for my birthday," so none of us got him a present. So So yeah, he wasn't liked by the regular guys on the show. Cher, on the other hand, we liked a lot. She was nice. You know, she could be aloof at times, but she was very smart and very, overall very nice. In fact, and she was very, very bright too, which I realized on the first year of Sonny and Cher on the Halloween show. I had to play the werewolf, and they spent like 2 hours doing my makeup on my face and on my hands. I had these grotesque, hairy hands just to show you how quick Cher was. So when I went into the rehearsal hall, Cher had her back to me talking to some of the dancers. So I thought I'd sneak up on her and scare her with this grotesque, hairy hand. So I slowly walked up behind her and then slowly put this, again, really ugly, hairy hand on her shoulder. And without even thinking, she just looked at my hand and yelled out, "Sonny, your mother's here." And I went, whoa, this girl thinks quick.
Yeah. Well, now I know not to bother asking Billy Crystal to do my podcast since I'm not on the same level as him. You know what I mean?
I guarantee you he won't do it. Yeah. So, yeah, that's what I realized with Billy. And not only me, I talked to a lot of other people, and they all felt the same way.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, if somebody doesn't particularly like you, doesn't mean that they're an asshole. Just means you don't connect with them, for any other reason. So I didn't take it personally, but then when I talked to a lot of other people, I realized that he had the same connection with other people. If you're a Robin Williams back in those days, he was all over you. But if you weren't at his level, he just didn't want to be interested. He wasn't interested in you.
Yeah.
Or dealing with you. Yeah.
And then you also owned your own restaurant called Showbiz, where a lot of famous people worked under you, like you were the boss of them.
I wasn't the boss of them. They did their own thing. I ran this nightclub, which was it was 2 years of fun and a lot of unfortunate problems too, financially and otherwise. But yeah, a lot of people started out there. Gallagher, first place he worked at my place was my place. Letterman started out at my place. He lived right down the street, a block away from my place on Langston, and used to do jokes about that. David Letterman. Freddie Prinze used to come in there all the time. Oh, Michael Keaton started there. He was Michael Douglas when he actually worked at my club, because that's his real name.
Yeah.
And I believe his manager is a guy named Harry Columbi, who used to come into my club and watch Michael, and subsequently ended up being his manager. Got him on a lot of shows and produced a lot of his movies. So, and Harry used to be at my club too. So yeah, there was a lot of interesting people. Deborah Winger, the actress, was my waitress there.
Oh,
that's a long time ago. So yeah, so it was a fascinating couple of years with a lot of people who ended up working there. Tim Reed worked there when he was dating Della Reese back then. Trying to think of who else. A lot of people went through my club, but it was like I said.
Now, when Gallagher worked for you, was he throwing watermelons too?
Yes, he was.
Oh,
Gallagher. Oh yeah, he started. That's how we started. Now Gallagher, he was. You ever heard of a guy named Jim Stafford?
No, I have not.
You have not. Well, he had a big show back then. He had a bunch of records. My Girl Bill was one. What was that one? But he was actually a fairly big star, about 30. He's still around. He had a bunch of hit records. Jim Stafford. Anyway, he was good friends with Gallagher, and he had a show when my club was open. He was signed on to do a CBS show. And so he brought Gallagher from Florida to write for him. And so Jim Stafford came into my club a few times and did some shows there and brought Gallagher with him. That's how Gallagher started. His first shows was at my club, and the first thing he did was watermelons. Yeah, he started that right from the beginning.
Now, was that a nightmare cleaning up, or did you make him clean it up?
I have no clue. That's, a long time ago. I don't remember what he did back then, but he got people right from the beginning. But too bad he had a personality problem too. Poor Gallagher.
Yeah.
Not well liked over the years. Also,
I actually met Gallagher in Vegas once, and he wasn't very nice to me. But I think also I wasn't on the same level too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think that was the case with Gallagher so much. He just didn't relate to most people, whether you were below or above. He just had a hard time with people. But he was one smart dude. He had a great comedy mind, no doubt about that. But he could have been so much bigger had he been a little nicer to the general public and to the execs that he just alienated a lot of people because of his unfortunate personality.
Now, one of the cool things about you is because, like, you did stand-up comedy, which I do, and then you wrote and starred in your own movie, which hopefully I want to do. How is that up your alley? Like, how was that experience like? Like, what gave you that idea?
Well, that was great. I've done a few movies. I've done with Wishful Thinking and Night Patrol. But Up Your Alley was interesting because I just wanted to do a movie because I'm one of those people who always want to, try something I've never done before. And I just took a loan of my house and got a friend to direct it. I produced it and co-directed it, and we wrote it together. But it was about homeless people, so we actually went downtown and pretended we were homeless people to write the script. And again, I just wanted to do something different, and we ended up making the movie, and it ended up being in theaters and did fairly well back then. So I was proud of that little movie that I made for less than $100. That's when people were shooting on 35 millimeter. I mean, now you can make a movie on anything with digital, and you can even make movies on your phone. But back then, you still had to, the cost of making a movie was very expensive. The cost of just film alone and processing film and getting it developed was the majority of my budget back then. But somehow I got it done and had a nice little movie that I was proud of.
And you also worked with the great Bob Zaney. What was that like?
Bob Zaney. Bob, I have to say today, I would say he's probably one of the best comics in a club.
Yeah.
That you'll ever see. Yeah. But Bob used to open for me a lot back in the old days. He opened for me, and that's how I first met him. He was pretty young. In fact, I remember, and I think he tells the story where some club owed him money, and I was working it, and they screwed him out of a few $100s, and I told them that I showed up at the club, I wouldn't go on until they paid Bob his money, and they did, and so I did my show. But yeah, I've known Bob, and I used him in the movie Up Your Alley too, so I've known him a long time since he was just starting out.
Yeah, and a lot of other people opened up for you too. Like I know David Spade said in an interview he opened up for you a couple of times.
Oh yeah, David did. Steve, Kevin Nealon from Saturday Night Live opened for me. The guy not biking out. Dave, not David. Why am I blanking on his name now? He does Truth or Consequences, the show. Truth. Yeah, it's Truth. The comic.
I was gonna say Fred Stoller, but he's not on that show.
No, I know very well. No, but what's the name? I'm telling you, he had his own show. Drew Carey's.
Oh, Drew Carey. Okay. The Price is Right. That's what he's on.
The Price is Right. He opened for me a bunch of times. And then the other guy on his show was really funny because I was at the Improv one night and Drew Carey's there, and so we're talking. And what's the tall guy on his show that was on his show?
Oh, Greg. No, is it Greg? Ryan Stiles. Yeah.
Great improv show. Anyway, so I'm at the improv. I'm talking with Drew, and Ryan walks towards us, and Drew says, "Oh, have you ever met Ryan?" I said, "No, but I'm a big fan because I really loved him on the show." And Ryan comes over and says, "Hey, Barry, how you doing?" And I go, "Hey, Ryan." And he says, "You don't remember me?" And apparently he opened for me for over a week in Canada years ago, and I didn't remember. So Ryan opened for me too. A lot of people opened for me back in those days, and it was fascinating time. But yeah, David, Kevin Nealon, Drew Carey, Ryan Stiles.
Now, what was like an unknown comic show headlining? Like, did you do 45 minutes as an unknown comic, or?
No, I do an hour show, maybe 12 minutes as the unknown comic, and then I take the night off. Then I really go to 10.
Yeah.
It's much more fun. but they, people come see it. They still love all that bag stuff. I do magic and impressions and all kinds of quirky stuff with the bag. So it still seems to work. It still worked the other night.
Yeah. How was it sold out? How many seats did it fit?
It was only a small place, but it was pretty well packed. Yeah, so we did have fun, and I did get a couple standing ovations. One after the more comic, and another one at the end of my show. So that was nice.
That's always nice when you get a standing ovation. I've only gotten one my entire career, and that was before I started.
Yeah, well, my favorite was when Jerry Lewis came to see me, and I got to see my show because I was an idol of Jerry Lewis, and growing up, and then when I was working at Sarah, he was in the main room, and they told me he was going to come down on my show, and so I just opened and I had the bag on, and I see Jerry Lewis and his entourage walk in and sit in a booth, and I like. And somehow my energy just went through the roof, and I just kicked ass on that show and got a standing ovation. And then I did something with Jerry Lewis. Then, after the show, as people have done, after the show, I had a keyboard player and a drummer when I did the shows back in those days. And so after my show, I introduced Jerry Lewis in the audience and went over to him, and I said, I can't believe that you came to my show, blah, blah. And I said, any chance I can get a picture,
Yeah.
And sure. So I yelled at my keyboard player to get the camera we had in the dressing room. He ran and got it. He brought it back. But I gave the camera to Jerry Lewis, and I put my arm around my keyboard player and had Jerry Lewis take the picture of me and my keyboard player. and it was the room just exploded with laughter when I did that, as did Jerry Lewis. And then I heard he ended up doing that bit after I did it to him.
So he stole your joke?
Yeah.
Holy Lord.
I could care less, Well, first of all, it was something that just impromptu happened.
Right.
It wasn't something I'd never done it before, and don't think I've ever done it since. That was the only person I ever done it with, 30-something years ago with Jerry Lewis,
my friend Barry Katz, he told me to ask you, he said you have a great Elvis story.
Oh, well, yeah. I partied all night with Elvis. I've been very lucky, and I really have. I mean, how many people can say they partied all night with Elvis? How many people can say that they been threatened by Frank Sinatra? How many people can say they spent Christmas Eve with Lucille Ball at her house?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, these must many things. I mean, Jim Carrey did his first TV show with me. Started out here. The list goes on and on. But yes, that was pretty unique to party all night with Elvis till about 5 in the morning, till I got tired and left. But it was just, I went to see a friend of mine who was Bobby Gentry. You ever heard of her?
No.
Yeah, she was a big star back in the day. She had some bunch of hit records. But she was a friend of mine, actually from the Sonny Chair Show, because she guested on it a few times. And she was married to, Bill Hara. Well, no, that's Harris Hotel. So she was also, but she was also married to Jim Stafford, who I just talked about, who was Gallagher's friend.
Yeah.
Jim Stafford, she was also married to him. Anyway, Bobby Gentry was a big star back then. She was headlining at the Desert Inn. And me and my buddy Freeman, we saw her there. We went there together. We lost all our money. So we said, well, let's go say hi to Bobby Gentry. So we go back. She was in the middle of doing our show when we got there. So we waited. And then afterwards, we told security, we were friends of hers. So they let us in. And then, of course, they contacted her. So anyway, Bobby went, said hi, gave us a big hug. We walked in. And who's sitting in her dressing room but Elvis Presley, and like freaking out. And my friend Freeman was from Mississippi, so they talked. So anyway, we were joking when all this done. He says, "Go, well, we go over to my place," because he was at the Hill. So we all. That's right, John Biner. You've heard of John Biner, right?
Of course.
Okay, well, John was an old friend of mine. He was actually opening for Bobby Gentry there, so he was there too. So anyway, so we all go down, and the limos are waiting. We all go over to the Hilton, go up to his suite, and we just partied all night with Elvis. And he did this karate thing, and where he got in a whole karate outfit, and he used me as when somebody comes after you, you get him 2 fingers in the eye, and you give him 2 fingers in the throat, and you give him 2 fingers in the groin. He's poking on you. And I said, and I remember saying, yeah, well, when I get the two fingers on a groin, can I get dinner and a movie with that? You know, and so and my brain was going, you're fucking making Elvis Presley laugh. You know, it's hysterical. But it was so cool because the coolest thing was, and it's funny because Linda Thompson was there too. She was his girlfriend at the time. And I talked to her recently about that. So anyway, so Elvis is, it's like getting real late, and Elvis is sitting next to me. I'm sitting right next to Elvis on the floor, and there's about 8 of us there. You know, a couple of guys, and Bobby Gentry, and I think there was one other guy there. What was his name? Dang, I think it was Harry Columbia, because Harry Columbia, who ended up managing Michael Keaton, also managed John Byner. In fact, that's how he ended up managing Keaton, because John Byner was always going out, leaving, and didn't want to work that much. Anyway, that's a whole other side story. But anyway, I can't believe I was actually sitting on the floor next to Elvis when he started singing "Are You Lonesome Tonight?" You know, I mean, it was like so freaky, and I knew he was singing it to Priscilla, because even though he had his girlfriend there, and you could just tell he was still missing Priscilla. But it was very cool. He's sitting right next to me on the floor, and I'm like zoning out. I can't believe I'm sitting next to this guy singing "Are You Lonesome Tonight?"
Now, when you were hanging out with him, were there a lot of ladies like hovering over you guys, or?
No, we were up in a suite. There's more guys. There's bodyguards. In fact, that night he gave me each a little white gun and a pistol. And no, the only girls that were there were Linda Thompson, his girlfriend, and Bobby Gentry.
I did.
The only girls. Like I said, it was only a total of maybe 8 or 9 people.
He really did give you a gun?
No, he gave his bodyguards a gun.
Oh, it's gonna be like, I've heard he's given a lot of people guns, like Richard Nixon and stuff.
Yeah, he gave his bodyguards with a big little white gun. I never like lied. I remember he had a half brother, was one of the guys there, and he was passing out pills. Because you know, he was obviously very heavy into drugs and pills and shit like that. So this is why he died so young, 42 years old. Still incredible.
If you ask my dad thinks he's still alive. He's just hanging out, like something. Really? Yeah, he's one of those like conspiracy theory people.
That's sad, yeah. Well, he also, what's weird is his mother died at 42. Him and his mother both died at 42. That's really a strange coincidence.
Yeah. But if you ask my dad, he thinks like that's all part of the plan or whatever. Like he's.
Your dad's got some problems.
Yeah, I mean that's probably why he became a comic.
Your dad was a comic too?
No, I was saying that's probably why I became a.
You became a comic. What'd your dad do?
My dad is a janitor.
Okay. Oh, in a school or office building?
Office building. So when he cleans, he just listens to Elvis.
No kidding.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah. And
okay, well that's sad.
He's like clean toilets, listening to Hound Dog and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. It was pretty impressive that whole evening anyway. Yeah. So.
But you said Frank Sinatra threatened you? Like he threatened to kill you or what?
But I had my legs broken and shit like that on the phone. Yeah, he called me personally and threatened me because I supposedly did some joke on him that I had forgotten. And that story went around LA quite fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what was the joke?
It was interesting. Well, it was, first of all, I got a phone call and because it was on a show called Make Me Laugh. Have you ever heard of that show? Yeah. Yeah, okay. So I did a bunch of those, both with and without the bag. And so I guess I did a joke on there. Because I don't do jokes, but I was, scrounging around the jokes. And I did a joke where I said, I was reading a newspaper apparently, and I said, Frank Sinatra is going to open up a halfway house for girls who don't go all the way. That's the joke. Simple joke, nothing, outrageous about it, but that was the joke that he saw and got pissed off at.
Yeah.
So he calls up my home, and I get the phone rings, and I hear this rough voice. Is this Murray Langston? I go, yeah. He says, listen, you fucking prick, you mentioned my fucking name on, and he was all cursing through the whole thing, on TV. I'll have your fucking legs broken, all this shit, threatening me. Now, I don't think it's Sinatra, obviously. You don't think, I think it's a friend of mine, Joe Battaglia, who sounded just like him.
Right.
So I pick out and I say, yeah, Joe, fuck you, Joe, and all this stuff. And he, this is not Joe, this is Frank Sinatra, you asshole. And he's cursing me out again, threatening me. And I'm, again, laughing, not thinking it's him. And he said, this is Frank Sinatra. So I said, yeah, well, sing my way, asshole. And he just got pissed and slammed the phone down. Now, again, you don't think you're talking Sinatra. So I hang up and I'm laughing till the phone rings again. And I pick up the phone. I said, hi, it's Murray Langston. I said, yeah. I said, this is Milton Berle. And I recognized Milton Berle's voice.
Right.
Because coincidentally, I just worked with him a month before on a show called The Everyday Show. And so he says, I guess you didn't think you're talking to Sinatra. I said, no. He says, yeah. He says, and he's the one who told me about the joke. He says, yeah, well, and he was like defending me. He said, look, Frank's like, he's really off. He's gotten older and he's off. And, but he said, that was Sinatra that called you. I said, wait a minute. I said, first of all, I don't do jokes about Sinatra. And he says, well, then he told me the joke. He said it was the joke you did on Make Me Laugh. And he told me the joke. So then, so anyway, after I hung up on Bill Berle, I called the producer of Make Me Laugh. What was his name? Can't remember his name. Figuring maybe he wanted to take that joke out. So I called the producer, whatever his name is, and he actually, I said, and he answered the phone. I said, hey, guess who just called me? And he goes, Frank Sinatra. I said, how'd you know? He says, well, where do you think you got your number? I said, you asshole, you had to give him my number. He calls the producer of the show. So that's how he got my number. And anyway, that story went around LA like crazy, that he called me and threatened me. So obviously he wouldn't have done anything because everybody would have known it was. Yeah. But he did threaten me. Yeah.
And during this time, while you're like hot and all that stuff, did you have representation? Like, did you have management?
Not really. I've never been much of a workaholic. I've always had a really, really fun time career. I would work 2 weeks and then they had management for like maybe a year or two, and I didn't like it. I didn't like that I was flying somewhere coach and they were flying first class. So, and I just resented it. So I've always been just doing my own thing. Never really had an agent or manager, I'd say, over my entire career. I just do my thing, and I never made huge amounts of money, never became hugely successful, but it's all been such a fun ride. Yeah. I've had a blast and enjoyed it. And like, to be honest, I don't really consider myself so much of a comic as more of an actor playing a comic, because I don't think I think the way most comics do. I never really was crazy about running around, traveling and doing clubs. I never, like I did the Tonight Show. Everybody used to freak out. The Tonight Show. Wow, this is the end of my career. And I did it, and I was not worried about doing it. I mean, I did it once, and Carson wasn't that particularly crazy about me, even though I got 7 applauses during my set. He apparently doesn't like prop comics or quirky comics. So, but I never really, considered myself like Leno as a comic. Seinfeld, these guys are comics. They live for being on the road. They live for doing their act. And to me, it was just a way to meet ladies and have some fun.
Yeah. I did a Flappers Comedy Club, which is in Burbank, and Leno did a guest set, and I was very intimidated around him because I was like, because I grew up watching the Jay Leno show, and the fact that he's doing stand up at the club I'm at, it just kind of threw me off,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
When I was an old buddy, I still have his phone number. I can call anytime I want.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I was buddies with all these guys, whether it was Robin Williams or Letterman or Jim Carrey. I worked with them all at one time or another. So I was very lucky. When I got into comedy, I was in the right beginnings of the explosion, and then came up with this quirky thing. In fact, I wrote about it in my book. I do have a book out called Journey to the Unknown, which I don't know if you heard of that.
Is it a paperback?
That's on Amazon and stuff, or through my site, but it details each year of my life. It details all the people that I did meet, that I did work with in the beginning. And like I was there the day the comedy store opened. How many people could say they were there? The day it opened, so that's where my history goes back. And to all these guys that I hung out with and worked with, whether all these, because I remember, in fact, when I started making a living at stand-up, which was very early, when I created Emma Comic, all of a sudden I was in Vegas, working in the lounge there, making good money out of nowhere when, a year before I was selling shoes at J.C. Penney's. But I started making money very early, and that's why, even though I did the whole comedy store circuit, improv circuit, in the very beginning, to me, when I started making money, I just didn't see the value of going there anymore, even though I got to know everybody in those early days. But what I'm saying is there couldn't have been 100 comics in the entire country making a living at stand-up when I started making a living, because I remember checking it. And from the guys who were the biggest then, like Don Rickles and Milt Berle and all the biggies, to the guys that were just starting out, like David Brenners and all those guys who were starting to make a living. There were no more than 100 comics in the entire country that were making a living, because there was no place to work, before the comedy store started exploded. There was only a few Playboy clubs and a few gigs in Vegas and a few clubs around the country. So there are literally less than 100 comics making a living, and I was one of those 100 comics during that era. And then, but now it's like there must be 30,000, 40,000 comics out there, people trying to do stand up.
And it's harder to make a living now, because it's all about how many followers on social media you have and stuff. Like, it doesn't really necessarily mean if you're funny or not,
Yeah, well, you have the biggies. I mean, the guys were exploding and making a fortune out of the Bill Burrs and the Jim Gaffigans, and these guys are the ones that are really kicking ass from their Netflix specials. So Netflix specials is what's making people explode now.
Yeah.
But still, for everyone that's getting these Netflix specials and is making a fortune, there's 5,000 other comics trying to get a Netflix special.
Have you ever thought about doing a Netflix documentary about yourself?
No, again, you need management. I mean, if it happened, it happened. But no, never. I have actually. Who was it? That guy? Some guy did interview me. He did talk about that for a while. Yeah. And he was a big executive. What was his name? He had a podcast.
Barry Katz?
Yeah, Barry Katz. Yeah. He actually talked to me about that. He did an interview with me about, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. And he actually said, "I'm going to get you a thing on. We need to do a special on you." He actually said that, and talked to me about it for about a few weeks. Called me a few times, and then it just fizzled, and I never heard from him. So,
well, I could give him a call for you. Like, he's one of my friends.
Yeah, well, I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
He told me he was going to, but then he stopped calling me. So obviously, he must have. My view, he probably investigated the possibilities and then found that there wasn't a whole lot of interest, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, he'll tell you he did an interview with me in a mobile I had in Canada Park about, again, 6 years ago.
And then
5 years ago, something like that.
And then the last question I have for you is, after your shows, when people wanted an autograph, because obviously pictures is probably like kind of hard to get a picture because there weren't cell phones, right?
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I've been sort of semi-retired for about 15 years,
Yeah.
So, I do an occasional gig here or there, but I was on the Sunday. Normally it takes, in the old days, it would take me 3 shows to get back in the shape. The first shows are always a little shaky. If I took a month or 2 months off, but now I do like 1 show every 2 or 3 years. So I haven't done 3 shows in a row probably in 15 or 20 years. So I've been offered, gigs all over the country. Like even the Laugh Factory used to bug me to go there, but I just don't want to do 2 shows a night anywhere.
Yeah.
I did that in the beginning. I used to do 3 shows a night at the lounges, and I did that for a year, doing 3 shows a night. So I reached a point where I said, I'm not going to do that anymore. one show and enjoy my life. Again, I'm more about enjoying my life than making money or becoming famous. And that's the way I've always been, and it still is the way I am. And I still love my life. Even though I'm 77, I still think everything about it.
I guess my question was like, when people asked you for an autograph, did you sign bags for them, or like did they?
Well, I signed anything they put in front of me.
Oh, nice.
Oh, I had that new picture of me that people used to come and get. There was a. I don't remember that picture. I had a picture. It was sort of like the Burt Reynolds pose where I took a day with a bag over my head and a large bag over my neck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that what
Playgirl, right? Was that Playgirl? Yeah.
That became quite popular back then as a poster and pictures. And people used to have me sign that, but no, I've signed anything. People had me sign their tits, and those were fat guys.
Yeah.
So I've had everything. I've signed everything there is to sign, and been happy to do it. I take a picture with anybody. Yeah.
Now, Murray, where can the folks at home follow you if you want to be followed, or do you not want to be followed?
Oh, I'm on Facebook, and what else? And I have a site if anybody wants pictures or bags or anything or my books. It's realunknowncomic.com. Realunknowncomic.com is my website where I got my movies. I got 3 or 4 or 5 movies that I've done and things. Yeah, because I was thinking, I didn't realize I've done almost 800 TV shows. I was listing my shows. I did a lot of work in my day without having agents or managers. Because I did a series 4 years with Sonny Cher. I did a series with Bobby Denton. I did a TV series with Wolfman Jack. I did a TV series with the Hudson Brothers. I did so many TV series back in those days. Yeah. So I've done over 800 TV shows altogether. And then back in those days, I did almost every talk show going, but they had so many that whether it was Carson or Letterman or Irv Griffin or Mike Douglas or Dinah Shore or there was all kinds of talk shows. I used to do them all back in those days. So I did quite a few shows back in those days in my heyday. Boy, did I have fun, and I'm still having fun. All right, so that's the secret. Have fun whether you're making a big living or whether you're just struggling.
Thank you so much for talking to me, and this was fun, and it's also like, now that I know you didn't have rep, it's an inspiration because I don't have rep. So now, like, if you could do it, I could do it.
Yeah, absolutely right. It's just a matter of going for it. A lot of people just don't go for it, and I've always, like I said, like you talk about the movie, I said I'm going to do a movie. Anybody else would have been nuts, but I did it, and I ended up doing a couple. And when I decided to do, because I used to be part of a comedy team, and I was petrified of doing stand-up. I decided I'm going to, create this, character, the Unknown Comic. I always found that when my back's against the wall, that's when I come out with figuring something out. So it's good to have your back against the wall, but you got to come out fighting. You can't just stay there with your back against the wall. Come out doing, figure out something how to enjoy your life and enjoy it at something you, and eventually make a living at what you enjoy. Yeah.
Well, thank you, and thanks for the interview. I'm gonna pause and then say goodbye to you on the phone.
All right, buddy, it was good talking to you, and you take care, and good luck to you and your endeavors, and hopefully you'll.
Well, thank you so much, Murray. I really do appreciate you taking time out of your day to talk to me. It meant a lot to me, pal. Yeah. Well, thank you again. I do appreciate it. All right. Have a good day, Murray. Bye.
You're listening to Reza Riffs with Keith Reza and Alan Lee, right here on LA Talk Radio.